first order of business before we get to, I guess there's a couple things I want to do. First, we need to note the revised meeting time. The meeting was supposed to start at 4, but due to our delays, we said 4:15. We're actually starting at 4:23, so we'll just note that for the minutes. The second order of business before we get to agenda is minute taking. So our minute taker is no longer available to us, so we're back to having to do this ourselves. I believe we're being recorded, right? So we are being recorded, so whoever wants to take this up, and maybe it becomes a rotating thing where each of us will take a meeting as we go and we'll work our way through the group. So you could either take minutes during the meeting when it's your turn, or you could work from the recording if needed. So anybody have any thoughts on minute taking? I don't mind spreading it out. Maybe we just rotate it one person at a time.
So just for my understanding is that these are transcribed after the meeting, so.
Oh, the notes, I was thinking just watch the recording.
No, I'm saying the ones that were currently being done, were done previously.
Yes, she was not doing those during the meeting.
Right.
She was working from the recordings. Correct. So, any thoughts?
I would suggest we rotate it, just to be fair.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's not a fun thing to do.
No.
And I love, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
I was thinking about this in the last couple weeks while we had it on the agenda. And do you think, I think rotating is a great idea. Do you think we might be able to do double duty, and Peter's not here, but do double duty with, if we're re-watching the recordings, maybe, and this is something Rob spoke to previously as well, maybe we can jot down a few notes about how the conversation's going, and maybe like reflect a little on how we use talk time, and like how well we're being effective with our meetings. I feel like we're always running up super hard on the end because there's a lot of beating around or going around in circles for a while in certain areas. And I think if we all just can come with a couple suggestions in a couple weeks of how we might be able to be more efficient, that might be smart, because I feel like we're running out of time a lot.
Yeah, we never get through the full agenda. I feel like we attend to the most critical stuff. I guess that's why we tend to focus on that. But yeah, that's a good idea. We can do that.
My experience is that with a lot of projects I deal with now, we don't really, our agendas and our meeting notes are fundamentally continuation. They basically have open items, and so what you don't lose things. They stay on the agenda, or they stay in the list until you've actually answered them. And so what's a closed item, what's an open item, and it's less just purely documenting what's been said. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Amanda, versus this is just literally a copy of exactly what was said, paraphrased, but more or less reiterated, versus... I
think that's also legitimate, but I think that's a separate issue. I think, yes, maybe our minutes can be more summarized, more just like the takeaways rather than how we got to the takeaway.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. But I was just thinking, if anybody's rewatching themselves, as you know, in the different degrees I've gotten, I've had to do a lot of tasks, projects where I've had to watch myself teach, watch myself ride, watch myself do lots of different things, and it's very instructive to see myself and see how, that's the public perception is different than what I think it is, and I think some of us are just the primary speakers in our meetings, and some of us are ready to move through to the next thing, and we don't get to, I don't know. I feel like the meetings are tough to sit through because they're very one-sided. I don't feel like all 5 of our voices are equal, and it's frustrating. So I'm just going to be super blatant about it.
Yep, no, that's good. So as far as when you say like double duty, can you expound on that a little further, just so I'm clear?
Just mean if it's my turn to do the minutes, and I'm going to refer back to the video anyway, take that opportunity to say, how could I have done better in that meeting? Or what problems do I see with the way the meeting is going between just the personalities or whatever? And I can keep some notes over here, and then if it's Mark's turn, Mark might have some insights and he keeps some notes, and by the time all 5 of us have watched the video, maybe we can have a conversation and say, how do we do this better? You know, I don't know if everybody's ever watched themselves back and seen, you know, oh wow, it took me 20 minutes to say something I could have said in 2 sentences.
Yeah, I try to avoid that personally.
Yeah.
It sucks, but I think it's really good. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm the only one who's had to do it. Public speaking, I had to rewatch every speech I made, right? And I had to take notes on myself. So.
Yeah. Yep, no, that's a good point. And then Rob, in terms of, you want to expound a little bit on what you said in terms of the agendas and minute taking?
Well, I just think that, and I think trying to, again, I'm not necessarily someone that believes you have to have literally repeat every single thing, that every conversation or anything else, but to pick out the actionable items and the things that need to be done to move something forward. And so I think that a combination of these two things makes sense, is to pick out what are the action items that are listed in the text. So you could have a action item, and then you could have the supporting document or the supporting language below that as a way, because I find we go through the meeting notes and it's not, we don't do anything with them, we just kind of correct the language of them, and we don't put them down as, by the way, we need to do X next. So it's just...
We do that a little bit in our master schedule. Like if
Right.
you look in the calendar, we do that. Like
Yep.
usually there will be 1 or 2 things that come out of that we need to do for the next meeting.
So I think that's what I think would be great, is in the meeting minutes, that those items that were covered and were targeted, like you just described, should be pulled out and should be highlighted as items that we focused on and decisions that were made.
Yeah, okay, yeah, if you want to make it clear what the next steps are.
Yeah.
I feel like we might know that because we were involved in the discussions, but yeah, it might not be that clear to someone looking in from the outside.
Right.
As to what the next step.
Even if if you miss a meeting and you go back and you're reading the notes or whatever you're looking at, it's sometimes clearer if you're just looking at it and it's summarized for you. But
Sure.
I think just starting out and sharing it, I like the idea of critiquing our, not that I want to do it either, but critiquing our, how much we're participating.
Okay, all
Well,
good
I'm happy to
suggestions?
try the minutes today and come up with a new template for that, and then if we like the way that I think I'm interpreting what you're saying, then maybe that can be helpful going forward. But I have my computer right here, because I'm...
Excellent, thank you. You just
Thanks, man.
anticipated my next thing, which is to say, who's going to volunteer for today's meeting? So it sounds like, Amanda, you will do the minutes for today's meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and then after that, we'll rotate through the entire group. The chair is exempt. No, I'm just kidding, I'll do it too. All right, so then...
One thing, sorry, just since I can't see, who else is in attendance, please?
Oh, okay,
in the
yeah,
audience.
Rob, Mark, and I are here. Peter is not here today. Oh, and then we do have the public gallery. We have 3 people from Parks and Rec,
Okay,
and we have Melissa Roy and Dave Sharples are here too.
okay, thank you.
I mean, I know Greg and David, and I forget your name, I'm sorry.
Tara.
Is it Karis?
Tara.
Oh, Tara, yeah, and Tara's here too.
And I'll just write down anybody who talks, but I just kind of can see them, but I
Yeah,
can't tell.
that's true. And when you do get up to speak, make sure you say your full name for Amanda's benefit. Thank you. All right, so on to the agenda. I still need to stop at 5:30, so we'll try to work through this stuff as quickly as we can. First thing on the agenda is meeting minutes from 9:23. Did everyone have a chance to review? And
No
any
comment.
comments on?
No comment.
No comment.
Amanda, I don't know, were you at the 9:23 meeting, or?
No, I was not.
Okay, yeah, I did review the minutes, I don't have any comments on those, so we can
I make a motion to accept the meetings as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay, all opposed, there's no opposed. Okay, so the motion passes 3-0 with 1 abstention for approval. Okay, so moving on through the agenda. Okay, so minutes taking, we've discussed that, and we have some thoughts and ideas on how to make the meetings run more efficiently, so that will all be good. FAC meeting schedule. We had talked about possibly switching to the morning to accommodate Daryl's schedule on the select board. I had a brief email exchange with him, but I still don't know if that's going to work for him or not. So anybody have any thoughts? I mean, we can keep it at this time.
Well, I think we need to have select board representation, right? So if Daryl can't make it and we can't find a schedule that's accommodating, then I think Nico is here and offered that, he would, it needs to go back to the board, right? There needs to be representation. So I guess I can make it, personally, I can do it now, or I can try to make it work in the mornings. But if that's not going to be an option, then I think we just got to go to the next step.
Yeah. This time is best for me. That 8:30 really chops up my morning, so.
Yeah, my preference is to keep it where it is, but again, I could be flexible depending on who can attend. I don't know, Amanda, for your schedule.
Yeah, I mean.
Morning is slightly better for me, but I can make this work.
Okay. So yeah, my preference would be to keep it now. Is everybody okay with that? The 4 on Thursday?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Is there a frequency thing to discuss? We're doing it the first and third Thursdays of the month. Peter had mentioned maybe dropping it to once a month, or thoughts on that?
Well, we went to 2 every other week because we had so much that we were trying to accomplish, but maybe this goes back to the efficiency that Amanda was talking about, because maybe we would be more efficient with our meetings. We can go to once a month. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I guess the other thing, we are running up against it, meeting twice a month. I'm not sure if that's just due to efficiencies. I feel like we have been tackling some pretty big projects and having some good discussions on some pretty wide-ranging issues, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I guess for now, we'll keep it at first and third, and if we can get better at running the meetings and we feel like we can do it once a month, then maybe we'll look at it doing that. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine with me either way. It's, I mean, we have a lot we're trying to do this fall, right?
Yeah.
Between the budget committee, us, the warrant articles.
Yeah.
So once a month, we only have a couple meetings in that case.
Yeah, once a month is tough. I think we did that really early on, and I don't know.
I think also that it may be time of year dependent too, because like most of these things it's a lead up in a lot of cases to the town vote. So, and preparing the budgets for the next year. So it may be one of those scenarios where, twice a month during certain times makes more sense than once a month during other times.
Yeah.
Probably could be so more flexible.
Okay. Amanda, any thoughts on frequency of meetings?
That could work. I think it's fine to keep it twice a month right now, and then I think that's a great point, Rob, that maybe in the spring we don't have as much going on or something, so we can review it then.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll continue our current meeting pattern for now. Okay, next item up is the Milestone review. Let me just pull that up real quick. One way to be more efficient in the meeting is to have all of our documents open before we start. FAC schedule. So the one thing that I know that we need to do, let me see what else. So we did have a small group meeting with the BRC. That was on the calendar. Peter and I met with them. And out of that reinforced the tasks that we had to do anyway in terms of the facility condition assessment item that we have. One of the things for that is for me to schedule a presentation with People GIS to see, since the town uses that system on their, on some DPW items, such as fleet, they do have a building portion for that. We want to have a presentation from them to see if that's a viable tool that we could use to input the FCA information into. And if, to Mark, I think Mark had brought up the point, if they do that, if they provide that service now too, where they do condition assessments or not. So I have to schedule something with them as soon as I can. But other than that, I guess just firming up the facility condition assessment so that we know, we have a better idea of what it is and who's involved and how does the town use it once it's implemented. Those are the questions that we have to answer for the BRC.
So that was the summation was really ultimately, what were the, I guess,
So funding
good
options.
example of bulleted points of the,
Yeah.
what questions do they want us to answer?
Yeah, I could probably speak to that a little more. Questions would just be, like, what's the system going to be? And absent knowing exactly what it is, how is it going to work? What does it provide to the town? Who is going to provide the upkeep? What are the ongoing costs? Things like that. I mean, I can come up with a formal list.
So those will be answered when we meet with the Budget Recommendations Committee?
That's what we need to present to them.
Right, so we'll attend one of their meetings
Yeah.
and walk through that warrant articles, but this is in front of the entire committee.
Yeah, and one of the aspects of our discussions with them too is they talked about maybe taking it out of a warrant article item and finding other funding mechanisms within the DPW budget, so thereby having to forego the CIP vote, which would be nice. So if we can give them firm answers as to all those things, I think we can get them to recommend to the select board ways to fund it through the town's operating budget.
It'd be really nice to have that proposal from a company to be able to.
I was just about to say that.
so that there are some good costs to be able to talk to.
Some hard numbers, yeah. That is not quite, let me look at the agenda real quick. Okay, so that is right after the milestone review, so we're kind of leading into it. Before we get into that, though, we could bump up the rec facility since the rec folks are here today, and we can have a quick discussion on that and get them on their way. So before we delve too deeply into facilities condition assessment talk, let's go to the rec facility item, which was going to be the next item on the agenda. Update on that is, I think we're all aware that they have a purchase agreement in hand pending approval by the town next March to purchase a property by the rec fields up on Hampton Road. And Rob and I were there for a tour of the property with Greg and Tara. And David, were you there?
I was not.
I was going to say, I don't recall you being there. And Melissa was there. So Rob and I got to tour the property and look inside and out. Rob, do you want to, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you want to give an update as to the tour of the potential rec facility?
I actually would like to hear these folks kind of talk about the facility, and then we can give our comments based upon our review.
Sure. I was going to invite them to
speak. We had asked, I guess, my quick summary is, at least what I took away from our walkthrough was kind of, we kind of went through a list of kind of short-term vision pieces, and so that was one of the things I thought was a takeaway for the rec group to come back with, which I think we kind of went through, the kind of what they want to do once they move in, for everyone to hear the kind of that first vision, and then the kind of over time development of the site. So I think that would be where I think would be good to start, was that vision, and then we can chime in with our commentaries based upon our review.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just add, too, that we were there. Rob and I toured it as members of the facility committee, and there were at least 2 other members of the Budget Recommendations Committee, I think 2 of them. And I can't remember, I think that was it. That was all for the attendees, yeah. So with that, let's turn it over to the Rec Department, and yeah, let's hear what you folks have to say.
Greg Beeson, Exeter Parks and Recreation. All right, to try to hit on Rob's thing. The 10 Hampton Road property actually is an opportunity for us to access. That the land acquisition is first and foremost one of the most important things, because it allows us for parking expansion for that facility. But the building itself offers an opportunity to move in with some modifications. We would focus on the first floor only for the first year to get in there, making it ADA accessible with a second means of egress that's also ADA. We'd also just take down a couple non-load bearing walls to create programming room, creating 3 distinct areas that we could do programming. There's a meeting room currently that's adjacent to the kitchen that would be accommodating for our senior population, as well as a couple offices that's where we'd consolidate to make programming space. Office space, there's plenty of office space for the 4 full-time rec staff. And that would be myself, our office manager, our rec coordinator, and our assistant director. And just connecting with the town infrastructure, internet is one of the most important thing, because right now, if you look at the parking situation up there, it is triple of what we actually have at our current building. There's about 45 spaces if you really line them out. So it would allow us that opportunity, and then work with the facilities committee into coming up with a vision of how we move forward with the second floor, and do a program analysis to really see what the future holds for the department and the building itself. If that kind of summarizes and answers your question, Rob.
Yes, I think that's a good summary of kind of the early program. I think the only thing I didn't hear was the comments about parking, developing a parking lot on the site, which was the only other thing that.
Yes, and we actually met with Public Works, and we're working with them to get numbers before we can commit to how much we're going to expand. As you know, we did have a consultant come in, and their assessment of the property is we can fit 70 parking spaces, but in talking with DPW and being mostly facilities people here, there's a lot of design and engineering that would go into it, because we do have stormwater management we need to take into consideration. So we're waiting to hear, Public Works is working up some numbers and what they can do, and so that is still, we're working on numbers, so it's hard to say, yes, we're definitely doing this, but again, if it comes to the fact that we can do it in year 1, absolutely, but we want to focus first and get what the priorities are in the building and on the property.
So, Greg, sorry if I missed this, but so you said that right now you thought you could park up to 40 vehicles? With the
45 vehicles, yes.
40 that's there now.
Yep.
So what would be the ideal number of vehicles that you would want to park?
No more than 70, Mark,
Okay,
honestly.
so 70.
Well, we'd like to max it out in the future, but it all depends on what we find when we start. There is an area that has a overgrown area of brush that used to be a meditation path. And Rob's experience from the Hampton Road properties is we want to make sure proper drainage. So we don't want to just start throwing things out there and having it sink, so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was asking, is that is also, I mean, I would just say that we've talked before, is to look again at this whole site before you go too far with this one site. Mm-hmm. I know you talked about this, how it's going to be connected to the existing Parks and Rec that you have, right? So, I mean, I would suggest before you go too fast with parking, and then you see that maybe it could be utilized to something else. I mean, just bringing them, I guess, emphasizing that I wouldn't want you to rush. I'd want you just to get in and then look at this at a high level and what this pieces of property, if voted in, give you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we're taking a step back and not rushing things. And then that's why when BL companies actually looked at it, they are factoring in that there's options. So that's why they were hesitant to even really say this is a plan, because there's so many different options out there with the property. Our key point of this whole warrant article is to acquire the property and get in there and then look at it from 50,000 feet and kind of come up with a plan.
Who's did you say BL companies?
BL Companies, Rhode Island.
Is that BL or BL?
BL,
Oh,
E as in
BL,
boy
okay.
and L as in Larry.
And they're the engineers, are they surveying or what's their?
We actually had a survey already
You had a
that was
survey, okay.
on record when Seacoast Hospice had it. So
Okay.
and they were generous enough to actually provide the CAD for us.
Okay, and BL, what services are they providing now?
They're looking at building options and lot options, but
Okay.
knowing that we're not rushing into this, it's one of the things that they're making recommendations, but they're loose recommendations depending on what we want to go and which direction we want to go in.
Okay. Well, that's good. I was just going to follow up with Mark, and, if Mark's guidance to take a holistic view at the site, which is good, how can we advise you on how to do that? And it sounds like you have a company that you're working with. And do you have money operationally that you can use to keep them going? BL?
Yeah. We do have enough, and depending down the line, we will have a schematic of what the first floor will look like, which is important. But that's about it. Like the whole parcel itself is such a blank canvas that we don't want to commit to anything and put that apprehension into people's minds that this is what we're going for. We want to take it slow.
Yeah. Any other questions for Greg or comments? Amanda's good. Rob, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I'd just say that, again, I thought it was a good visit. At least I thought it was nice to be able to get out there and see the site and see the building, talk about what some of the early visions. I think my comments were is that they're going to be rare to find the lot alone. My big question, I'll be honest, is that the building to me doesn't really have a whole lot of value. It's more the lot than it is the building, and its adjacency to the area. I think that over time, that ultimately you'll find that there will be similar ADA and accessibility and program issues that you currently have are going to be in a slightly better condition building, but that's it. I think that ultimately it's the lot and the site and being able to use it at least initially to get yourself started, access to the site from the storage building. So
Yeah, I guess I would just want to clarify my point about the parking, but it's also to the building, to follow up what you're saying, Rob, is that I would recommend not to put too much work into that building until, again, you've figured out what this lot offers you, right? So I know you want to get in and start using it, which sounds like short money, but I'd also, again, look at like what Rob, you're saying. What if it didn't have a building, would that be an advantage? Does it make more sense long-term for the town? Rethinking that. So just my 2 cents. Sure. Same thing. I know you want to get in and get running. There's accessibility improvements that you need to do and you should do, but I would also look at it as a blank slate. So clarify, parking is the whole lot should be looked at that way, including the structure. Yep. So my recommendation.
I agree with that, but at the same time, I'm realistic that they're going to need to spend a few years in the existing building.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Especially based on the lineup of needs for the town's facilities, so.
But master planning can happen pretty quickly too, though, right? I mean, get in, start using it, and then, I mean, you guys already started to think about this, right? Or you
Absolutely.
have before. Like, what is this going to mean for this campus, for this complex? Does it give you flexibility of what you can now do in the old parking lot, right? So instead of parking has always been an issue,
Very
right? Access has always been an issue. This just opens up some doors. Now, it doesn't fix everything probably, but
I think access is the most important aspect of this property, especially not only for maintenance, but emergency purposes.
Yeah.
Getting ambulances in and out. We do have a lot of adult programming up there, and not saying adults are most healthiest. But when you have adult softball going on up there at 85-degree temperatures and adults running around, that's one concern. And then you got the kids, of course, and sports injuries, as I know you guys know, with having kids that played sports, injuries crop up, and we want to be able to get access. And that's the most important, I think, aspect of it is the access to it, and along with parking. If we can alleviate at least 40 cars out of the lower parking lot, that is one of the things that we just have to juggle, and people will have to realize when one lot's full, there could be possibilities, but until we fully develop each site to its potential, there always will be still, I think, parking issues.
Well, and then obviously, parking is a indicator of success. So the reality is as you become more successful, there probably will be more parking. So it's part of the equation. The existing building parking lot, does anybody, I don't know the history around that small rectangular area at the front that seems to be just kept as grass, why that is?
Well, that's a good question, Rob. The current property owner does not know either.
No, I'm saying the town lot.
The town.
On the Forehampton Road.
Yeah.
The culvert dumps into that area from Forehampton Road, or from Hampton Road. So it comes down, and actually just 2.5 years ago, DPW had to replace the culvert that went under our driveway because it was failing. And so all that stormwater runs down, and it actually runs into another culvert that goes zigzagging.
If you would like to increase your property and increase the amount of property you have, I would suggest working with DPW to not have it dump onto the town property. And actually, you make that land usable.
Robert, you talk about when you first go into the existing parking lot, the area on the left?
Correct.
Yeah.
Like there's, I'm looking at it now, there's diagonal parking, but there's a grass strip, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's pretty substantial grass area. It gets so wet, just to give you understanding how much water goes on there, that majority of the summer, we can only mow a portion of it, because our mowers will sink.
And it's because of the drainage?
Yep.
There's always ways to get around, there's engineering that can be done.
Well, because what happens is that's the stormwater from Hampton Road dumping out onto it versus continuing on. So, but yeah, I don't know what your thoughts were, Chris, on the walkthrough.
Yeah, on the lot, I don't think I have anything to add on the lot. I mean, it is a great location. We'll put that in the record. It's a great spot. It'd be great for you guys to be able to utilize that. The building itself, the building's in kind of varying condition. The front of the whole complex is the older home, and it reflects that when you go inside. The back of the complex is newer, and reflects that as well. That's the more modern size space that I can really see you having success with program areas back there. I think the offices are suitable. The one area I'm a little concerned about is at the front where there's that conference room, and access to it seems pretty tight, so I'm not sure as far as ADA access to that area, what improvements you can do to make that. That's one thing I guess I'd like to see from somebody, like how do you get wheelchair accessible hallways into that conference room and such. It looked pretty tight there. That was the older part of the house.
There was some headroom issues because the stair kind of cuts through the hallway. So, and then we talked about obviously the restroom. But I think those are all things that you guys should be thinking about, and hopefully that when you have a plan developed, I would love to see it, and it just be helpful. The other part of this is I know you're asking for $100,000 to do some changes to the building. I get that. I think $100,000, again, I know you're going to try and co-opt some of the town to do some of the work, but $100,000 in this market and this climate and everything else may not be enough money to make it accessible to do some of the things that you want to do. So just be, aware that you may not get all the things you want out of that amount.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure the whole first floor would be accessible, and that access to that conference room is something I'm concerned about. So if you have your consultants, if maybe they can devise a way to make that accessible as well, that would be good. But otherwise, I mean, the building's in pretty good shape, so I think it would be a good facility in the short term for at least a few years. Some of the shortcomings of it we noticed were some of the heating system elements, but you guys were aware of that, and those are something that could be addressed as well. The only other advice I would have for moving forward too is coming up with the transition plan. I know it sounds like if you could get into the building, there will be time to do the accessibility enhancements that you need. Move into the building. What would your transition be? We talked about using the garage on the old site for a while because there is a garage on the new site, but it's not adequate for what you folks need, I don't think. There's only like a one regular garage bay, not even big enough for like a larger truck or something like that. So I guess to be clear on what the transition plan would be to where you're going to house that stuff. Maybe you can keep it there in the garage for a couple years at the old site, which would be fine. And then after that, I'm not sure. So
Chris, it would be based on what the town decides in general to do with 32 Court Street.
Yeah.
But right now, we'd probably keep it where it is.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you'd have to
use that little off building as limited storage, because we have a lot of program storage. Remember that we haul upstairs at 32 Court Street, so it would be easier access if we used that, and then down the line, if we needed to move our parks guys, make adjustments to the building or make do, that's something that we would definitely do. And then when transitioning over for us as general, if it passes, the current owner has until July 1st to get out of the building.
Yeah.
So nil work would be able to start until after that point.
I see. And then you would hope to be in the building in the fall, I would guess,
Yeah, late
probably
fall.
like September
Yeah.
or October. Okay.
It may be later than that,
Yeah.
just to give
Yeah.
DPW is able to assist with any of the work. We would like to give them enough time to do that. So just being honest.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, that's fair
We
enough.
don't have a set date that we need to get in there.
Okay.
Is that 100,000, Greg, set in stone, or is that still something you're working on?
That is set in stone.
Yeah.
Well, yes, right?
Yes.
Well, that's because of the warrant article, or, that's not finalized though, right? The 100,000?
You mean cost-wise it's finalized? Like,
Well, that's where we're trying to project to keep it at $100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
and that would be
Is
part of the warrant.
why is that a magic number of 100,000?
We wanted to be fiscally responsible and try to get it in there. That's why we're working with DPW to see what we
Yeah.
can and cannot do. So,
Which is great, but I would also, I don't know, I'll leave it at that. I guess you should get in and not have things half at 32 Court, whatever it is, and you know what I mean? If you could spend another 10,000 to create a better storage space or something, and I don't know, I get it, but I was just curious why 100,000, so. All right, thanks.
And then the other thing, as you know, is just throughout the process, soliciting public input, and trying to generate support that way.
we have a public information session that will be held here on November 30th. Here, yeah, because we're going to do via Zoom as well, so people can Zoom in
that's
if
great.
they don't feel comfortable, and then in person. So it's after our rec advisory board, so we'll have a rec advisory board from 6 to 7, and then we'll have the public information session on the 30th.
And that's for this property? That's
For this property.
To
Yep.
present this property and have public input?
Ask questions, and hopefully be able to answer all of them.
That's great.
And any kind of online presence, something I found works good is just to have like a public website where people can solicit questions, and you don't have to post everything that people have, but if you can post answers to those questions or point them to information from there, that's always helpful too. So I don't know if you have any plans for that.
We don't have a budget to create a standalone website. We do have a page on the town website on this project.
Okay. I was going to
So-
say, you have an assistant city manager or town manager who might be able to assist you in that endeavor.
You have a Facebook presence and social
We do.
media presence, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a page on our website that
Yeah.
we used last time that we can make sure we have answers. And I
Yeah.
know he's working with EXTV to do a virtual tour through the building. I don't know, when you look at like a house on Zillow, you do like a
Yeah.
virtual tour,
Yeah.
or do something like that. So we'll make sure that information is out, and as people ask questions, we can add to the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you don't have to post every question, but if people are posing tough questions, it's good to put answers out there and to be honest
Sure.
with people, I found. And Facebook is okay, but I've found too, not a lot of people go there. You're not reaching a huge amount of people with
No,
that,
I would-
contrary to
yeah.
popular opinion.
No, I mean, social media in general, though, just because
Yeah.
you guys, as far as at least getting word out, right, and then having links to the website or whatever. I know you guys are good at that.
And we have a very large mailing list on our email, so one of the things, we have over 4,000 people on our mailing list that we can email out.
Yeah. Oh, sounds good. Does anyone else have any more questions for the
I just
rec
have
team?
One question. The Planet Playground property, that's on leased property.
That is correct. Yep.
And what is can you remind me the terms of that lease? How long?
It's renewed every 5 years. It just actually had an amendment 2 years ago because it was going through a refinance for HUD. The current owner refinanced and got money out of it, and then subsequently put it on the market and is in the middle of selling it again. So it's going to another party, which has not been finalized because I was told by their lawyer, when HUD's involved, it could take up to 2 to 3 years for a sale to be finalized.
And was there an opportunity for the town to buy that property?
We had an opportunity to lease it long-term for 50 years to try to meet the language that we would qualify for grants. But LWCF being one of them we were looking at. But having talked with the state, they need the word in perpetuity, not so basically it needs to be a lease forever and no terms in it at all. So,
Yeah, well.
and they've never, and that's why I've been going after the owners to see if they would be ever interested in. So hopefully if this does get settled and they can finalize selling it, then we can then go back on the attack to try to get the new owner to either subdivide it, or then if worst case scenario was we need to find a new
So,
location.
just to clarify, you're saying they're selling the entire property, not just the section that
Correct.
has...
Yeah, no, it's the lot.
It's the whole lot.
Lease a portion of it that the existing Planet Playground
Yep.
is on.
Yeah, it's about a quarter acre that we lease.
And when does that lease that you have right now with the current owner, when does that expire?
I think 2025 if I have.
Okay.
I thought you said something too, Greg, that during this selling process that you're not able to do any improvements to that area, or what was that?
Well, we actually have a contractor that's going to come in and do a few improvements, upkeep, but the town doesn't want to invest in renovating it totally with it being hung over our heads that they could pull it at any time, because we don't know what the new owner envisions for the property.
Right. And but it's in need of work.
It is,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So I mean, just again, as we look at this, you have now a new parcel of land, and at some point, I mean, it may even be better to get rid of that. I mean, if you have to replace that playground to begin with, and.
Which we do.
Right, okay, so that's what you have to, it has to go away or
Yep.
be replaced, so, I don't know, just a thought that maybe not putting it back on leased land is the best alternative anyways, so, but, okay, you guys are thinking about it, it sounds good.
Any other questions or comments? No?
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right, thank you.
I'd like to thank you guys for spending the time walking out there, for those of you that came out.
Yeah.
and just talking
Yeah, our
about
pleasure.
this various meetings, so thank you.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, the rec department is working vigorously to engage, boards that can help advise on this, including the Budget Recommendations Committee and others in town as well. So keep it up. Good job.
That's great.
All right, on to the next item. So you folks are free to go whenever you want. Let's go.
Thank you, take care.
Yes. we'll go back to the facility condition assessment because that is something we do have action items and we want to discuss a little more fully. So I had mentioned that Peter and I had met with the Budget Recommendations Committee. They saw the value, we discussed what the FCA would do, what the value it could provide to the town. They are on board with it. They like the idea of it. I think they even would like to adopt it to the facilities on the DPW side as well, like the sewer building, like this, they do a lot of monitoring of the sewer, but it's mainly of the sewer system itself. They would be interested in including buildings like that in the assessment and in the subsequent monitoring as well. So, and then probably one of the more interesting things to come out of it that I already mentioned is that they saw the value in it, and Bob Kelly is very close to the budget for the water and sewer, and he thought there might be ways that they could find some money within those budgets to fund the facility condition assessment. So we just need to finalize what the system would look like and how it would work, and go from there. So any comments and thoughts on that?
So you mentioned this before, Chris, but can we try to get that company sooner than later?
Yeah, I was
Maybe our next
hoping,
meeting?
I was hoping to have something to bring to this meeting to say, hey, I've got this all set up, but
Yeah.
time is of the essence and I really need to move quickly on this.
That may help us if there's some information that they could share with us as far as their systems.
Yeah,
That may help us be able to talk better to what the town already has in some of those.
yeah. So let me, before the next meeting, I will nail down something like that. It'd be great if I can get somebody quick enough to maybe even come to the next meeting and talk to us about
Yep.
that. But
Yeah.
that would be my goal.
Or if they have something that they could share, they could send to all of us that we could try it on our own,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have demo.
But yeah, I might be able to get
So-
somebody to demo remotely, and if that's the
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
So
Amanda could share the screen with somebody else, and
I guess I'll just step back and say, where are we on sending out the RFP and getting that moved forward? I think that's, if I'm going to say what action item we've been talking about month after month after month after month after month, is getting this thing out there. And I still don't know what the roadblocks are. I don't know why this hasn't happened. I'd love to know why, what we need to do to get it out, to move forward. I don't know whether that's in whose court, it's in our court or whether it's in someone else's court.
I can try to take that, because I thought, I was at that meeting, I think you were there too, that Russ was like, no, we don't issue the RFP until it's funded. So that's always been how we've issued RFPs on the town. That has been standard practice. I have never issued an RFP here before funding was approved. I mean, maybe there are reasons that this is different, but I thought he said that a couple of times at this meeting, so I thought that's why.
I don't have any recollection of that. We can go back
Okay.
and look at the meeting notes, but I don't have any recollection.
Maybe you weren't at that one, maybe, but I remember we had a discussion on it, that that's not the way the town issues requests for proposals or call it.
yeah, I think we're kind of at a chicken or egg situation here, where we're trying to nail down what companies can provide at what cost, and we're looking to use the RFP to get that information, but without, funding, we can't issue the RFP, and we don't know exactly how much to fund, so.
I'll challenge that, though. I mean, I don't understand why we can't issue the RFP. There isn't any RSA, there isn't anything else that actually would preclude us from issuing it prior to, I don't believe that there's any logistical, except for if the town decides it doesn't want to do it that way versus I
believe that's it.
it's the
What
town.
you just said, yes.
So
Yes.
I get that. I understand it, and
The past practice, past
Past
policy.
practice, exactly. So-
There's really they don't see, we're talking mid-March here, so, it's a matter of 4 or 5 months.
correct. They just, it would, the value of it at this point would give us a lot of information that would demonstrate to the Budget Recommendation Committee, to the Select Board, to the community, what it is and what the value is, as opposed to us summarizing it and giving it back to the folks, is that this is fundamentally the tool that we're talking about. I've been on the other side many times where we've given proposals at risk of knowing that they won't come and having to hold the contract price for the time period. So, I mean, to be frank, this is year 3 of going through this same thing, and I'm a little like every single time that we have the discussion about this. We're gonna take the $25,000 from the parks and from DPW. Well, then that money dried up. The next year, again, the same thing. There's no money for it. Now we're in year 3, and we still can't figure out a mechanism for putting this out. So I'm sorry, but I'm frustrated.
Oh, I understand. I haven't been that involved. I got involved in this and heard about this about 6 months ago. And that's kind of why I'm here. And I drafted a CIP item for it. I put it in the CIP, so I believe there is a mechanism to get it out. I just think now we're talking about a matter of getting it out now or March. I think that's the only discussion. It's not a.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I think the discussion boils down to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just add, though, the proposal is not just a fee proposal. I mean, these proposals come in, they'll present their software and their approach, right? So.
Oh, understood.
But what I'm saying is that what's helpful about it, besides knowing the fee, is that you can start to analyze these systems that this company will say, this is what I will provide you with the database, and here's the approach. So it will give us a lot more information just to know what the cost is. It's also for us to could zero in and help with some of the scope development.
I understand that clearly, but we're talking about just when you get it. Because if you get it in April, isn't it going to be as valuable?
No, what I'm telling you is that there's different companies and different approaches. So I know, Dave, so what I'm trying to explain to you is that by getting it now, you can help us define that approach going forward. So you start to get proposals now, and you can say, hey, this is the database that this person can provide. This is how they can do it. Another person comes in and says, no, we're going to do it. This is the way that we want you to do it. And we can say, no, that's not what we want. It would help us define the process going forward.
No, I understand that. But if you issue it in March, you're not going to do the same exact thing you just did in April.
I'm confused. What guarantee is there that we're issuing it in March?
Can you repeat that?
Make it sound like it's guaranteed to be issued in March.
It has to pass. I'm sorry. The caveat.
Right. So I think what Mark and Rob were both trying to say is, in order to give the different committees, the select board, and the public the information they need to make that vote in March to issue it in April, it would be helpful to have information earlier.
Yes.
So it is a very big difference between having information now before the vote, rather than voting on something with no information, hoping it passes, and then maybe issuing it if it passes. If it doesn't pass, waiting a whole nother year, having the same conversation.
Mm-hmm. That, and also you'd be more prepared to hit the ground running in March and April instead of having.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're talking about.
I mean, I guess, to me, that's enough power there, is to say we'll be ready to go March and April, instead of getting it to vote and say, now we're going to go out to bid, and then now we're going to negotiate.
I don't make that decision.
I know you don't make the decision, Dave.
What we all heard, I think we all heard it. We were all in that meeting. We had the same conversation a couple times, so I'm just repeating.
I don't recall it either, to be honest with you. I know that
been said.
I don't recall that either, so I guess it's been a while, I guess, but. That's fine. I mean, I guess it is what it is. If we can't issue it until funding's in place, then it's a moot issue. I guess we're just trying to explain. It'd be very helpful to have information from firms now to talk better about what the town can have. I'm explaining it from my experience, which may not from the academy, which may not be what is suitable for here. So that's why we're talking about maybe this software company that you guys use now can come in and say, hey, this is a system we can offer. We're talking a lot of things about that you guys haven't had a good experience with, and that's where we're getting some information from proposals. Maybe it should have been a request for qualifications, Rob, instead of an RFP. So.
Very simple language change.
And, maybe that's what needs to happen, so this thing can go out.
Well, we were trying to get
You guys can start seeing these companies, you're hearing from us, you need to hear from these companies that can come in and offer these services to you. That's the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah, and the RFP was to also get a better idea on price. And since then, we've revised it to, well, there's a $45,000 number.
Yeah,
And I
because we
believe
got
that was
unsolicited information.
correct. That was based on a price per square foot. So, I mean, depending on how firm we feel that could be, I mean, if that's a good number to go with, then that helps, then maybe. But anyway, we can even short circuit the RFP, RFQ discussion, but let me acknowledge Melissa first. Go ahead, please.
Why don't, Dave and I have heard what you had to say, and we'll get you a firm answer for your next meeting on process, on why process allowed or not allowed. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, it would.
Right, because that seems to be the question of, the town typically doesn't to do RFQ or RFP before funding is awarded. We'll get you an answer.
And I think
and then
that-
you guys
yeah.
can
I
take
think you've
that.
given us an answer. I mean, Dave's
Yeah.
clear this is the answer. I think if you want to validate and provide more information, that would be great.
Or
Why
revisit,
can't you?
or revisit it and
Yeah.
say why this situation is different. And the one thing I would say about this situation is that I understand why you wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to keep having firms submit proposals, especially like construction companies or service companies, things like that, because after a while, they're going to stop submitting if there's no funding and they don't get the project. In this case, this is a little different situation in that it's a new system, it's a paradigm that the town is not familiar with, and we need information to move forward with it. And I think in this case, and Rob and Mark back me up or explain the wrongness of my reasoning, but these firms would be okay. It's not a huge outlay for them to do a proposal for this. They do this stuff all the time, and they understand the nature of the whimsies of public funding. So I think they would be okay with submitting proposals on this stuff. And if the funding never materialized, I don't think that's the end of the world. So I don't think the town's ability to hire someone in this area or their reputation with contractors would be hurt at all. And I don't know what you guys have to.
No, I
think
agree. I
about
mean,
that.
if they're going to bid on the project, there's a chance they're not going to make it, right? So
Yeah.
this is just giving you an advanced copy of doing the proposal, even if it doesn't go to warrant article, then it's short money.
And municipalities are an untapped market for these people for the most part. So they're happy to kind of wade in a little bit, offer proposals with the understanding it might not happen, with the long-term hope and expectation of converting a lot more municipalities to this type of monitoring system. So that's what I would say on our behalf.
Just the other point right now is we're in a kind of a unique market and a unique time where the likelihood that after March of next year that you're going to actually be able to sign somebody up is going to be very unlikely. We're finding now that between the labor market, the material market, people's commitment to projects is not an immediate. It's actually extended out. So obviously, if somebody knows there's something potentially coming, that they actually have, it has a place in their schedule. So there's other reasons why you might want to go out and see what's happening based upon market pressures.
Just so I'm clear, because I heard a couple of things that I haven't heard before, that, because I've done the RP, you want, and you get proposals and people are going to differ and so forth, but you want their responses and determine a kind of set path forward and have that information to present to the public, so refine the warrant article as far as refine the price, refine the scope. That what you're saying? That's what I'm hearing.
No, what I'm saying is that these are unique systems that these different firms provide, right?
Yeah.
So they'll come in doing the inspections, and then there's also the database component of it. There's each company offers a different way to do it. So you having proposals, you can see now, you can do demos, they can come in and present to you, that you can see, you can talk better about what these systems.
I understand all that.
Right.
To what? To get to, where I just said, to get to a more definitive path of what you're going to move.
So you can talk to us, so you can talk to the budget committee, so you guys can talk to your own staff
You can say,
about
"I'm
that.
doing this."
You can say, hey, this is what these companies can offer. These are the
options.
proposals, these are the companies that can provide this.
That you wanted those options to refine and choose, almost. or, refine.
Yeah, I mean-
Or you want the BRC to get in choosing the options discussion?
No, there's not options, Dave. I think it's that when I say options, there's just different systems out there, right? There's the interface of it, whether it's, you going in and be able to do this capability, doing that. These are the things that they'll send to you and say, this is what we can do. Here's some references. Check this out.
I get all that.
I know that. So that's all I'm saying is that.
I'm getting to the next point.
I guess I'm not understanding. What I'm trying to explain to you is that getting these proposals and you can go and look at these, then you guys can start talking about why these systems are important. And you can try it out instead of you listening and having us be able to try to say that now you can get more involved in those if you know what companies are going to.
Hesitation on staff time when you have limited staff time and you're putting out something that doesn't get voted on.
I don't think that, whatever. I'm getting frustrated at this because this is, we're not talking about hours, Dave. We're talking about getting proposals, going on our website and trying it, and then so your staff, but DPW staff can go in and start to really look at this and what this company offers. That's all. It's not going in and spending 40 hours going in and doing this stuff. It really isn't.
I understand. I'm just confused. I'm still confused.
Well, the other thing, Dave,
timing.
Well, one thing I'll say is the end results of a lot of these products are similar. We're going to wind up with a database. It's going to have every facility, all their equipment in it, what the age, et cetera, all that information is going to be in there. How they do it might be a little different in terms of, we have our own proprietary software system that you can have versus a web-based one. There might be different fees associated with annual upkeep. One might be a lot better of a system and you have to pay a little more for it versus, hey, maybe we can use this one and make it work and it'll cost less, but it might require a little more work. So I think we're talking differences. They're subtle, but they're good to know so that you can inform, Budget Recommendations Committee and the public as to what the system is going to do. And also it will help us figure out how it's going to be implemented at the town level. That's critical.
Dave, tell me if I'm wrong, but everything that you're saying is typically done after the vote for the approval. And tell me if I'm understanding this correctly. There is a question on if that process can be moved up to be, in your opinion, made more efficient so that if it passes, you're able to move forward with the project quicker. And that is the answer that you guys would like. Because everything you're describing is what would happen if it passed it in March. And you're saying you would like that process to start earlier so that as you guys are moving forward through DPW budget, you're a little bit more informed on the possibilities of what you would like to see the FAC be.
I wouldn't just say sooner, but it would be more finality on what the system is going to look like, how it's going to be implemented at the town level, that sort of thing.
We will come back with some more answers and what the possibilities are. I'll be honest, it may not be what you want to hear, but we will get you more information. Is that fair?
That's fair, and I'd also love to hear...
and the whys.
I think
how's that?
We have the perception on our side that it's just posting an RFP to a website. What's the big deal?
Yep.
If there's other time involved in that, let us know,
Absolutely. We'll get you guys some more
Getting
information.
back the feedback
for your
and
next
going
meeting.
through the answers, and maybe there's more to it than we don't know, and we'd love to be aware of the overhead costs to how that system works so that we understand it better.
Absolutely.
And we only have a few minutes left, and this thing could the whole CIP process could be undercut if we are able to shortcut that whole process and somehow, I guess, come to a more concrete solution within the next month as to who a provider could be and how it would be implemented at the town at a level that would be suitable for the BRC to say, yes, we like what this can do and we'd like to present it to the select board. We'd like to recommend it to the select board for approval through the budget process, through the operational budget. So, there is a way to short circuit the whole CIP process. It would just be us firming up, maybe one or two providers very quickly in the next month. So any thoughts on that?
Well, we do have a purchasing policy, and you have to follow that for proposals over 25 grand, which is this is. So you have to read that and follow that. So you can skip the CIP, but I don't have it on me. There's a whole process that you have to follow. because the town, you gotta be very transparent about,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
how you go about purchasing.
yeah.
Private sector is very much more flexible, can happen much
Yeah.
much more quickly.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with both,
But,
unfortunately, so.
So just a caveat.
Like when Rob says, it's on year 3, I'm like, welcome to the public funding process, so.
Yep.
that It's common. So, I mean, I guess, Dave, too, my understanding is that if the BRC can make recommendations and bring them to the select board, how does the town administration play into that as well? Like, do you folks review that, or do you have input as to what the approval process for that is?
It depends on what it is. I mean,
Okay. If it was like 45,000
Has an idea at the select board level that BRC never even sees, and it gets
Yeah.
added to the budget. So there's multiple different ways that it can go.
Okay. I mean, does that sound?
Ultimately, it's the select board to
Yeah.
determine what the budget is that goes to the voters.
Yeah, so in the scenario too, where we were able to work with the BRC and the select board to make this happen operationally, that whole RFP process, I don't know if there's time for that.
Again, based upon, why I even asked the question was based upon the request from the BRC, which was to demonstrate what the system was, how it was going to be implemented, all these things are exactly the questions that were part of the RFP process. And one of the reasons why we wanted the RFP to go out so that we could actually be able to answer their questions with actual people that actually do the work, demonstrate the products, demonstrate the process in which they do it so that they would understand what it would take.
Yeah, so the egg is broken, and how do we can't really put it back together. I mean,
So we gave those demonstrations. I pulled a bunch of things from YouTube to demonstrate the process that a lot of these companies use to do the product. So there's a fair amount of information that's just even embedded in those on what both the evaluation, the software side of it, and then how it's used on a yearly basis from both a strategic planning standpoint and from so it went through the process in those. I don't need to repeat the same thing. It would be the same thing if you get a demonstration from somebody.
so do we have time to pursue this? And how do we proceed with trying to go the operational budget route? What's our next step forward? I mean, the first thing I'll do is contact People GIS and try to get
Yep.
information from them. Is there anything else we should be doing?
I don't think we can do anything.
Okay.
I will try to get answers to you and send them out in the email. You just
Yeah.
can't respond all. So
Yeah.
I will do my
Right.
best to get this at least.
So we'll keep this-
process
yeah.
questions. What are your options?
So we'll keep the CIP track going as well, and then we'll try to pursue,
But even if it's in the operating budget, we're not gonna be able to do anything until January, right? Or until March, until the votes, until
Yeah,
the
March is gonna be, it's gonna be March
Yeah.
vote, March vote.
Yeah.
CIP or operational, it doesn't matter.
It's
Yeah.
whether-
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Whether or not it has to be
The-
voted.
Unless they find money now,
Right.
unless it's in the
Yeah,
operating budget
they
now.
might a lot of things in the CIP, they do, some things in the CIP, they do put in the operational budget. That discussion really hasn't.
Yeah.
That's a little.
I mean, yeah.
And it still has that possibility. CIP or operational, it's still, though, you will not know if you have funding until the March vote.
That's true, but the only difference would be operationally, we would have to finalize a lot of stuff now, like over the next month to 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks.
You're saying if they were to put in their budget?
Necessarily, no.
No,
No?
this becomes a budget item.
All right. We just
I
have,
mean, it could end up that as a budget item.
We just have to have enough-
It could end up as a standalone vote, who knows?
Yeah,
That's
all
what
right.
is decided. by-
we just have to have enough to convince the BRC and the select board to move forward with it. That's all. And that's the information from the RFP that would be helpful, and absent the RFP, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how do we move it forward without the RFP.
Again, I think would be is that if there's a CIP presentation, right, that's in third week of November?
November 18th or
Yeah,
19th.
18th, 19th, and I would say that we would get some time on that, hone our presentation, which is, I think, what we talked about a few weeks ago, was just to hone that presentation for that time frame, to go through and talk to both the BRC as well as anybody from the select board that would be there and anybody else that comes to the town to see the presentation on the facilities conditions assessment.
Okay. So as far as action items, my first thing immediately is to try to get the people GIS, and then it sounds like the next item would be to start to prep for this November meeting.
Yep.
Start to,
With the BRC.
yeah. All right. That sounds good. And then await Melissa's email with all of her poison pen information in it. No, I'm just kidding.
I think
But
it's
yeah,
just,
any-
it's a fundamental change
Okay.
as to what we've done in
Yeah.
the past.
And
So
we're
we
willing to-
typically don't put that out unless funding is available. I will get you guys answers and we'll go from there.
Absolutely, and we're happy to speak to anyone about that as well.
Thank you.
And we're open to the feedback as well, so. And with that, we are a little bit over time. Did anyone else have any other, I guess this is an example, Amanda, where we spent the whole meeting on a couple items. We didn't get through the entire agenda, so is there anything else on the agenda that
No,
we
but that
didn't get
wasn't
to
what
that you'd like
I
to-
meant, really. I mean, that was like a really clear boom, boom, boom conversation. We just had a lot to talk about.
Okay,
Nobody
yeah.
was like expounding for 45 minutes on a subtopic. We did a great job.
Okay. With that, if anyone else has any more comments, make them now. Otherwise, we'll move to adjourn.
Well, I mean, we can adjourn, but I guess we didn't talk about the public safety complex, right, for an update. So
You want a quick update on that?
if the other people are interested in it, because it seemed like it's going fast, I would assume.
Yeah. Dave, sorry to interrupt you. Do you want to give us just maybe a 15, 30-second update on the public safety complex feasibility study?
Sure, that's about all I got, because I was involved in this project to take it to contract.
Oh.
And then, that's kind of how I got involved with the RFP, just the familiarity with that process, ranking and so forth, and taking it. And then it was going to be the chiefs that are, going to be, doing the work with LBA and the community forums and so forth. I told them I'd be available for assistance as, if needed. So my understanding is, we went under contract. They had a kickoff meeting, I think, the other day with the chiefs. They had them fill out a bunch of information sheets, I hadn't seen that. But then I'd suggest moving forward, you want updates, just let me know in advance, and I can reach out to the chiefs and get more, maybe get a written update, or, they can come and come and give an in-person update.
So David, who is there must be one point of contact, though. Like, who is managing the Valley? Who's scheduling? That's not you? Is that anybody else?
And that is the chiefs.
So both of them together?
Well, they need to, I don't know how they're working that out. But
It goes back to our original thing about how projects are done, and that
Yeah.
ultimately, from a town voter, to have the chiefs be the ones who are only ones without any oversight is,
Yeah.
to me, not a great process.
No, the town manager has the oversight.
No, but I'm saying oversight is in general. There's no project management that's going on here. That's it's taking the chiefs from doing something they don't necessarily do and putting them in a position where they're project managing for the town, which is, managing invoices, managing, what's going on,
Managing the
process.
scope. It's the process and the scope, though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this is where, I don't mean to cut you off, Rob, but as far as my concern is that they have their own jobs, and that they're now trying to manage something that they don't do normally and shouldn't do normally. And so I guess I have a big concern that there's not an independent
Yeah, I thought,
employee that's managing it.
I thought did Russ mention there was going to be a building committee also, and who would that be, and how frequently are they going to get together? No? Okay.
I don't know that.
All right.
No, I mean, that's, yeah, you raise good points. I mean, I've been involved, multiple projects, and it kind of falls with this, because you don't do it a lot in the town, like, how often does the town build a police station, or build this up? So it's usually, that's what I see, is the police chief or the fire chiefs in other towns. That's what happens. That's how you do it. And I had that same conversation. I think I said exactly what someone just said months ago. So I intend to be involved. I think Russ intends to be involved as, to help it along the process. I think just now they're talking about programming. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I guess, but what if they're...
And then they're going to hold a couple of public forums where everyone's, obviously welcome. And
Yeah, so the architect.
I mean, if you have any specific questions, specific questions to this project, then let me know, and I'll make sure they're addressed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Anybody opposed?
I finally figured out what to say after all in favor.
No.
It's all opposed. All right, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a